Good morning. Today we're going to learn about another battle. It's the Battle of Vicksburg. Before we get started in our text, let's turn in our notes to page 1 and we have a quick write. It says, what are the benefits of winning a battle? What are the consequences of winning a battle? So the benefits, that's something good that happens because you win the battle. And then a consequence is just one effect of the battle. It doesn't necessarily have to be negative, but it's just an effect of winning the battle. After you finish your quick write, our focus question for the day is, what's the main idea of the text? Anytime we read a nonfiction text, we want to think about what the author is trying to communicate to us. Before we get started reading our text, we want to preview our vocabulary. As I read the words and definition aloud, I want you to draw a line to the picture that each word represents. The first one is bank, and bank has multiple meanings. You probably know of a bank being a place where you go and put your money, or you go and take out money. But this particular definition of bank in our text is the edge or the land alongside a river or a lake. So it's that piece of land right before the edge of the water. It's called a bank. The next one is fortification. It's just a defense wall or other reinforcements to strengthen a place for an attack. So if you were playing laser tag, you might get behind a fortification or a wall so that it's not as so that people can't shoot you with their lasers as easily. And then the last one is maneuver, a large-scale military exercise of troops. So maneuver can just be a move, but when you're talking about war, a maneuver is when your group of soldiers does something all together. So they may run up the hill to attack the enemy. They may hide and wait and do a sneak attack on the enemy. Those things are called maneuvers. All right, before we begin reading our text, we want to make sure that we have a how or why question about our title. And because we know Vicksburg is the name of a city and that battles in the Civil War were named after the cities in which they took place, we know Vicksburg is a battle. And so now we're thinking, why is the Battle of Vicksburg important? Go ahead and write down your why question. And as we're reading, we want to make sure we underline evidence for the main idea, which is going to be the answer to our question. Vicksburg, Mississippi is a town on the east bank of the Mississippi River between Memphis, Tennessee, and New Orleans, Louisiana. The Confederate Army greatly fortified Vicksburg and set up cannons that could fire on any ships passing by. In late 1862 and early 1863, Union Commander Ulysses S. Grant sent several Northern forces to Vicksburg. Each campaign failed. Then in May 1863, Grant maneuvered an army behind the town. After some small battles, he drove Vicksburg's defenders inside the town's fortifications. Meanwhile, the Union Navy began shelling the town from the river. Grant's forces surrounded Vicksburg for more than 40 days. No food or ammunition entered it. After more than a month of hunger and repeated shelling, Confederate General John Pemberton surrendered on July 4th. I want you to go back and underline evidence. Why is the Battle of Vicksburg important? I want you to focus on this middle section right here that says in late 1863 and 1862 and early 1863, Union Commander Ulysses S. Grant sent several Northern forces to Vicksburg. Each campaign failed. So at the beginning, Grant was unsuccessful in Vicksburg. He made several unsuccessful attempts. And we know for a general in the Army, failure is not an option. They will fire you. So he's probably feeling a lot of pressure from Abraham Lincoln to get a win at Vicksburg. But then he has this breakthrough in May where he moves the army behind the town. This is a turning point in the battle. He tries a new strategy. He says, let's go behind the town and see what happens. After some battles, he's able to force the Confederates inside their wall that they built to protect themselves. And now they have them surrounded. So they are bombing them from the river, and they won't let in any food or ammunition. So that lets me know the people inside, they're out of weapons and they're out of food. And that's eventually why they end up surrendering and the Confederates end up surrendering. I want you to go ahead and craft your main idea. Why is it important? After several failed attempts, Ulysses S. Grant finally got a victory in Vicksburg by pushing the Confederates inside the fortifications of the city and starving them out. Is basically what he did. All right, go ahead and write down your main idea. Press pause if you need to. We're in box 2 when you're ready. Who won the Battle of Vicksburg? Well, in our text it says the Confederates surrendered, so that lets us know that the Union won the Battle of Vicksburg. What obstacles did the Union face during the battle? Well, we know this battle lasted for several months. And at the beginning, the obstacles they faced were that they kept losing. The Confederate Army had fortified the city so much that Grant and the Union soldiers kept failing every time they had a battle. Box number 3, press pause if you need to finish up box 2, and then play when you're ready to start. Box 3, we're at canopies. Is this caption and picture at the very bottom? It says, the summer sun in Mississippi is fierce. Many northern troops at Vicksburg came from cool weather states such as Minnesota and Wisconsin. As the newspaper drawing shows, the soldiers put canopies over their trenches to ward off sunstroke and dehydration. I'm not sure if you can see it. This is an example of a canopy. So they created shade. They made like makeshift umbrellas, really. You know, you go to the beach, you just don't want to sit out in the hot sun. A lot of people will bring like an umbrella. Some people even have tents that they like put up to be in the shade. And that's kind of what the Union soldiers did. And our text tells us that's because they came from cool weather states. And we know Mississippi is in the deep south of the United States. And it gets pretty hot down there. Pretty hot. All right. Box 3. Why did the Union soldiers create canopies during the Battle of Vicksburg? Go back, reread your caption. It's something we've already talked about. Write down your answer. Press pause if you need to. Make sure you're writing in a complete sentence. Second part of 3. What does the caption canopies reveal about the advantage that the Confederate soldiers had at Vicksburg? So we can approach this question by thinking about the disadvantage of the Union soldiers. They were at a disadvantage because they were from cool weather states. They were not used to the heat. But what about all the Confederate soldiers that are from the South? What advantage did they have? They were used to the heat, so they were not worried about sunstroke and dehydration. They knew how to handle the heat. And that could definitely help them in battle because when you're dehydrated, you're very weak. But if you know how to prevent dehydration because you grew up in that kind of weather, then you're not going to get weak and tired during battle as easily. Press pause to write down your answer and then play to get started. Number 4, we're at the caption that says hand grenade on the bottom of the next page. Northerners sometimes used Ketchum hand grenades that exploded when they landed on the detonation plates. Confederates tried to catch these grenades in blankets, then threw them back at the attacking Union troops. 4A, how did the Confederates counteract the Northern grenades? So what did they do to prevent them from detonating? If you go back in your caption, it tells you they tried to catch the grenades in blankets to keep them from going off. And then 4B, based on the outcome of the battle, what can you infer about the Confederates' strategy? Well, we have to think, who won the battle? Go back up to 2A. Well, okay, we know the Unions won the battle. So was this strategy of trying to catch these hand grenades in blankets effective? And throwing them back? Probably wasn't effective because the Confederates ended up losing the battle. When you're finished writing down your notes, we want you to write a paragraph about why the Battle of Vicksburg is significant. Start out with your main idea, and really use as much information as you know to support your main idea. So I want to challenge you, use more than one piece of evidence to support your main idea. Ready, set, go.